You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, our family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Called the USA, and we fly our flag cause we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. We never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can, we're Americans.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome in. It is Wednesday night again. So glad to be here with you. And before we get rolling tonight, I just witnessed something that I have to address. I'm sorry. This is not part of the scripted part of the show. This is something that I just need to say real quick after seeing what I just saw. It bothered me badly, and it bothers me enough where I need to share it with you. So I actually saw somebody on Twitter. They absolutely lumped drug users all into one single bucket, suggesting that none of them were worth saving. And, I just can't help but think that we all know better than that. And we need to do a better job of getting a better message out there. We need to be offering support and trying to help these people. Even if their families aren't around, there is somebody out there that cares about them. They are humans, and they're deserving of help and support, not being summarily dismissed as a waste of a human being. Now, I'm also not going to sit here and tell you that we can save them all, because that's not realistic either. But does that mean that we shouldn't try? Hell no, we should be trying, and we should be trying better than what we do as a society. We have far too many available methods that are much better than what were available 20, even 10 years ago to help these people. To borrow the words from a friend, it's not an easy subject, but these are real people, parents, brothers, sisters, wives, husbands, children, and it sucks all around. And it really does. It's never easy. It's not easy for the user that wants to quit. They realize they have a problem, and they fight it, and they lose to their problem trying to beat it. There are some people that there's nothing you can do that's going to help them. They're always going to fall back to it because they're that far gone. But that's such a small number, and we should still try. We should still try for them. And again, I'm sorry, this just bothers me. I was a paramedic in another lifetime, and I can't imagine turning my back on somebody that needs help like that and just dismissing them. Never going to happen here. And I hope you don't let it happen on your porch either. So anyway, enough of the preaching. just do good. That's one of my strong sayings, do good. Before we get rolling into the scripted part of the show, we will take a quick peek around the world and see what else is going on. We have MS-13 invading the suburbs. They're now estimating that there are over 10,000 members of the MS-13 gang in the United States, and they're migrating from the big cities to the leafy suburbs, and the police and even the residents just ill prepared to cope with the wanton brutality that this gang brings with it. It's a real problem, and it's going to get worse. And it's going to get worse since we have Democrats in Congress actually defending letting these people into the country. So again, what else is going on? Oh yeah, big news, big news. Dunkin' Donuts will stop using styrofoam cups by the year 2020. Yes. So all you people that get your dunks on and like your styrofoam cups, that joyride's coming to an end soon. Let's see. North Carolina paid $300,000 to a magistrate who quit over gay marriage. That's a great story. I'm sure the taxpayers are thrilled about picking that tab up. We have Israeli cops trying to seek an indictment against Benjamin Netanyahu. Come on, really? Let's see, what else is going on around the world? California is saying that it will ban crude from Trump's offshore drilling plan. What else? Oh, yeah. Gerber announced their new spokesbaby, their very first Gerber baby with Down syndrome, available anywhere but in Iceland. And if you missed the story on the show a couple of months back when I covered that, you should hit the archives and look for it. Basically, Iceland is trying to eradicate Down syndrome via abortion through early testing. So, congratulations to little Lucas Warren, who will receive $50,000 for being the spokesbaby. His parents have said they will put it away for his education. Good for them. And I don't know. And what else? Who cares, right? I mean, the world's ablaze. Congress has been ablaze the last couple of days with this spending bill that they've been bouncing back and forth. There are both, well, let's just say the Senate bounced a spending bill to the House this afternoon. The Senate reached a bipartisan agreement on a 2-year budget deal that did not include anything on DACA on the border wall. They bounced this to the House, and there are reports coming out now. Mark Meadows, the head of the House Freedom Caucus, has said that there are not enough votes in the House to pass this bill as is. That does not bode well, because tomorrow night at midnight, if a government funding bill isn't reached and signed, we will go into another shutdown. And quite frankly, and hey, look, Nancy Pelosi today, before we get into my points, Nancy Pelosi did an 8-hour filibuster-style speech. She just wrapped it up not too terribly long ago. 8 hours protesting this bill that was in the Senate that she had not even seen yet, simply because she knew it didn't have anything about DACA in it. Now, why would you protest on the House floor for 8 hours something that hasn't even been bounced to the House yet? and was not even officially approved when she started her marathon speech, which, by the way, is a record on the House floor. She broke her own record, set some 140 years ago, apparently. Give her credit. Her mouth was so pasted shut during the State of the Union that she's bound to have a lot to say by now. So she finally got all those crumbs out of her mouth, I guess, and could speak. So anyway, the Senate passed this budget deal, bounced it to the House. We got Mo Brooks, representative from, I forget what district in Alabama he's from, but he's like from the northern part of Alabama around Huntsville area. And he says not only is he a no, he's a hell no on this deal. Again, Mark Meadows, the head of the Freedom Caucus, saying that the votes are not there. It's a mess. And he Brooks said it's a debt junkie's wildest dream. He said, with all the spending of money that we don't have, we have to borrow to get and afford to pay back. You can see that reflected in the credit markets, where we're going to embark on an unending stream of annual deficits, money taken out of the credit markets, money that's no longer there that drives up interest rates. Brooks said, it's unfathomable to me that we want to bankrupt a country that took centuries of our ancestors to build, and this legislation goes a long way to bringing about an American debilitating insolvency and bankruptcy. He said he's shocked at how bad this piece of legislation is. A 2-year agreement totaling nearly $400 billion would provide almost $300 billion more to the Pentagon and domestic programs over the current spending limits. It would also finance infrastructure projects and efforts to battle opioid abuse. Again, the $25 billion requested for the border wall is not in this bill at all. This is likely to be added to a stopgap spending bill that passed the House on Tuesday, aimed at averting a government shutdown Thursday at midnight. I don't see the House passing this bill as is. I see a late night session tonight in the House, and maybe by first thing in the morning, they've kicked the bill back to the Senate to look at again. They have until midnight tomorrow night to get this thing done. You would think that it wouldn't be that hard for what are supposed to be the people representing us to actually do what we want, but apparently it is. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on with that. I didn't have everything lined up on that because, like I said, it's just developing, but we're going to head into the actual scripted part of the program now. And we're going to start with the FBI and the memo and all that good stuff, the FISA courts and blah, blah, blah. So we have a former FBI assistant director, Chris Swecker, commenting on the anti-Trump bias, as he called it, at the senior levels of the FBI when James Comey was bureau director and Andrew McCabe was deputy director. Swecker said, as a whole, this is not how the bureau operates, and added that bureau veterans know that the Clinton email investigation was not a real investigation. Comey served as FBI director from September of 2013 to May of 2017 when he was fired by President Trump. McCabe, a hardcore leftist, started in the FBI in '96 and was removed as deputy director last week, just prior to the release of a memo by the House Intelligence Committee documenting the anti-Trump bias and FISA court malfeasance by senior FBI officials. McCabe was Comey's second in command for more than 2 years and was responsible for overseeing the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton and her mishandling of classified documents and her illicit use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State as part of the Obama administration. Swecker joined the FBI in 1982 and served there for 24 years. He was the assistant director of the FBI from 2004 to 2006. Swecker was asked during an interview, I think the actual quote was, "Defenders of James Comey have said, oh, it was not a big deal, and that he and Andrew McCabe were drafting this exoneration statement for Hillary Clinton months before they even interviewed her." He said, "I'm an outsider. We're outsiders. We don't know how the FBI does its job. Is that the proper way?" The interviewer asked. He said, people on the outside hear that and say 3 months before she was exonerated, they were already drafting the statement. Doesn't that sound like it's cooked? Yeah, it's a legitimate question. And Swecker, who is now the chairman of the Governor's Crime Commission in North Carolina, his reply was, yes, it does. It sounds like the thumb was on the scale. Those of us who have done investigations and counterintelligence investigations know the Clinton email investigation was not a real investigation. They never once used a grand jury that I know of. We're hearing, those of us in the retired agent community, that Deputy Director McCabe was expressing his opinions in closed-door meetings all the time about Trump. So we're talking about a predetermined investigation, he said, and that's not how the FBI operates. And FBI agents on the street don't operate that way. Now, the intelligence memo released last Friday showed the Clinton campaign and the DNC had paid a law firm that in turn paid a political research group, Fusion GPS, and then paid ex-British spy Christopher Steele, who in turn paid Russians to provide political dirt on Donald Trump. Thus, you have the Trump dossier. The document was then used by the FBI and Justice Department, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Rod Rosenstein, Sally Yates, among others, to obtain FISA warrants to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. However, the DOJ and FBI officials did not tell the FISA court about the political background of the dossier or that it ultimately had been paid for by the DNC or the Clinton campaign. That's the allegation. There is a counter, we'll call it a counter memo, we'll call it the rebuttal memo, if you will, that is being examined right now by the White House. This would be the Democrats' response to the release of the Nunes memo last week. They want their rebuttal. It's having to be scrubbed a little bit. Apparently, there were some concern areas that, process and personnel that were left in the memo, for their protection. That needs to be scrubbed before it can be released and hopefully worded properly. I'd like to see both sides of it. I like to think I'm a fair person. I'm willing to read the other memo and ascertain from that where the truth lies. On February 3rd, Trump did his thing. He took to Twitter and said that the memo vindicates him in the probe, but the Russian witch hunt goes on. He's quick to point out that there is no collusion. And he also likes to say, if there was no collusion, how can there be obstruction of anything? Well, okay. The word now being used after 1 year of looking endlessly and finding nothing, obstruction. So collusion is dead. And Trump called this an American disgrace. But getting back to the meat of the story, back in 2006, when Swecker resigned after 24 years of service with the Bureau, then FBI Director Robert Mueller said Chris Swecker has made tremendous contributions to this institution and to the safety and security of the American people. He served as the on-scene commander of the FBI operations in Iraq, managed the dismantlement of Hezbollah terror cell in Charlotte, North Carolina, and oversaw the investigation and capture of top 10 fugitive Eric Rudolph. Under his leadership, the FBI has improved oversight of and support for criminal investigations and brought new levels of sophistication to the use of intelligence in criminal investigations. He strengthened priority programs to fight public corruption, transnational criminal enterprises, and violent gangs, and worked to protect our children and cherished civil rights. Under his direction, the Criminal Investigation Division increased its public corruption efforts by 250 agents, opened 30 new gang task forces, and established specialized child abduction response teams. Mueller said, "I would like to thank him for the sacrifices he has made and for his many contributions to protect and serve the American people." Sounds like Swecker was a pretty stand-up guy. But he will be maligned in the press, if not completely ignored. I guess if his testimony were to, start gaining traction, that's when they'd start to malign him. It is what it is, and we need, again, I don't care particularly what's in the Nunes memo. I don't care particularly what's in the Schiff memo, okay? Because I know that one's going to present one point of view, one's going to present another point of view, and the truth is probably going to lie somewhere in between them. But where the truth and the meat really lies, like we talked about last week, is in those FISA court applications and the renewal applications for surveillance. I think that's where we find the meat of what was going on. So anyway, also following up on something we touched on last week, the near misses with our military and the Russian military. I'll tell you what, we're so close. Hey, Rick, are you still with me? I know we're getting close to the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, we're good. I'm ready.
Yeah, let's go ahead and cue it up, and that way I'll just start the story fresh when we come back.
Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We are set to go here, second half of the show. We covered this last week about the near misses with the Russian military over in the Middle East. And, wouldn't you know it, after our guys made their statements, the Russian Foreign Ministry came out and accused us of deliberately stirring up Russophobic sentiment by making a fuss about a Navy surveillance plane being buzzed over the Black Sea, while the Defense Ministry advised U.S. military aircraft to steer clear of Russia's purported borders. So the January 29th incident occurred near Crimea. We remember that place, the Ukrainian peninsula, whose 2014, shall we say, annexation by Russia is not recognized by the U.S. or most of the international community. The Defense Ministry in Moscow said it wished to remind the U.S. Navy that Crimea is an integral part of Russia and advised it to supply its air crews with updated maps showing the correct borders of Russia's airspace. Interesting. So the U.S. Navy released additional video footage Thursday showing how close the Russian Sukhoi Su-27 fighter came to the U.S. Navy EP-3 Ares on Monday. The clips show the nose of the heavily armed Su-27 poking out from behind the propellers of the much slower-moving long-range spy plane. The EP-3 has a maximum speed of around 480 miles per hour compared to the Su-27's ability to fly at twice the speed of sound, Mach 2. About 1,500 miles an hour, thereabouts. The U.S. Navy said the Russian plane's maneuvers brought it within 5 feet of the EP-3's right wingtip before crossing its flight path within 10 feet and executing a sharp dive below, which resulted in violent turbulence for the EP-3 and its crew members. For the Russian fighter aircraft to fly this close to the U.S. Navy aircraft, especially for extended periods of time, is unsafe, said Captain Bill Ellis, commander of the Sicily-based Task Force 67, which supplies support to the U.S. Sixth Fleet and U.S. naval forces in Europe and Africa. The smallest lapse of focus or error in airmanship by the intercepting aircraft can have disastrous consequences, Ellis said. No margin for error, and insufficient time and space for our air crews to take corrective action. Now, we had a mid-air collision back in 2001 between an EP-3 and a Chinese F-8 fighter jet over the South China Sea that cost the life of the Chinese pilot and sparked a serious diplomatic crisis. Beijing called the incident a deliberate ramming. The U.S. said it was an accident that occurred when the fighter got too close while observing the EP-3. The spy plane was grounded on China's Hainan Island and its 24 crew members were detained for 11 days. The foreign ministry in Moscow said the U.S. was deliberately making a fuss over what it said have become routine episodes of escorting each other's planes. And again, accused the U.S. of wanting to stir up the Russophobic sentiments. I like that phrase. I'm going to have to use that. I think these people that are denying the Russian collusion are Russophobic about collusion. I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, we just want to note that this practice scarcely matches the wish to settle emerging problems in a civilized manner, the ministry added. Fall into depression or succumb to any kind of phobias. The defense ministry said the U.S. should either stop flying military planes near Russia's borders or agree on rules for such flights. We already have an agreement with rules for such flights. That has already been published. We covered that last week too. And something that the U.S. has, they say the U.S. has long displayed a reluctance to enter into dialogue over. This is hilarious. The Aerospace Force will continue to maintain the reliable protection of Russian airspace, the ministry said. Should American pilots, knowing this fact, fall into depression or succumb to any phobias, we advise the U.S. side to exclude these flight routes near Russia's borders in the future or return to the negotiating table and agree on some rules. See, now here, this is the good part. They said they couldn't get anybody in the U.S. military to talk to them to make an arrangement about rules. And here they're saying to come back to return to the negotiating table and agree on rules. So right there, they're countermanding themselves. How can you trust them? How can you trust them? The ministry claimed that the maneuvers of the Russian fighter plane on January 29th had been standard, absolutely legal, and perfectly safe for the American surveillance plane. Well, I think the video shows otherwise. Similar maneuvers by NATO planes near Russia's aerospace force planes over the Baltic, Barents, Norwegian, and North Seas cause absolutely no effects on Russian crews. One thing both sides agreed, let's back up. Let's do that right. Let's do that right, huh? Similar maneuvers by NATO planes near Russia's aerospace force planes over the Baltic, Barents, Norwegian, and North Seas cause absolutely no effects on Russian crews. Jawohl. That's German, but whatever. One thing both sides agreed on was that the incident had lasted for some time. The U.S. Navy said the intercept lasted for 2 hours and 40 minutes. That is a long time for a flight, regardless. Russia disputed the terminology, saying that an intercept takes just minutes and arguing that this was an escort mission. The Su-27 plane for more than 2 hours and 20 minutes prevented the U.S. surveillance plane from approaching Russia's airspace near Crimea, alleged airspace. Again, Crimea is not recognized as part of Russia. The defense ministry said, so such a flight could not be called interception because the right term for it would be escort per the Russians. So the State Department denounced the incident, which spokeswoman Heather Nauert called the latest example of Russian military activities disregarding international norms and agreements. We will call on Russia to cease these unsafe actions that increase the risk of miscalculation, danger to aircrew on both sides, and mid-air collisions. Only a small handful of countries, mostly hostile to the U.S., have recognized the annexation of Crimea, which followed a referendum also rejected by the majority of the world's governments. the governments that are recognizing the annexation of Crimea, that's just so ridiculous for me to even be saying, include North Korea, Cuba, Sudan, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, and the Assad regime in Syria. How quaint. What nice company. So, anyway, whatever. Russians are crazy. They're going to say anything. Let's bring it back closer to home. In late January, more than 1 million Americans watched an online town hall hosted by Senator Bernie Sanders. I find that interesting all to itself. The topic, Medicare for All. No mainstream network would carry this event, and predictably, the event was more of a pep rally for socialized medicine than a serious discussion of healthcare policy. Over the course of about 90 minutes, Sanders actually moderated a series of panels, each one stacked with single-payer advocates from the worlds of business, medicine, and public policy. And these speakers basically echoed Sanders' rosy depiction of single-payer health care. But in countries that have adopted single-payer, the reality is actually a bit bleaker. The UK's single-payer system, the National Health Service, is so poorly managed and understaffed that patients often wait for hours in ambulances or hospital hallways before receiving care. Hospitals recently had to cancel over 50,000 surgeries over the course of a month to make room for flu patients. In Canada's single-payer system, median wait times for specialist treatment now exceed 21 weeks. Some patients face year-long waits for the care they need. Doctors recently told one Ontario patient that she'd have to wait 4.5 years to see a neurologist. Now, here in the United States, the government-run Veterans Health Administration is a national embarrassment plagued by medical incompetence, administrative corruption, and life-threatening treatment delays. Hundreds of veterans have died waiting for care. But Senator Sanders claims a government takeover of the healthcare sector would lead to higher quality, cheaper care for all. Americans need only look to the UK, Canada, or their own VA system to see that this is not true. Now, not a terribly long piece, but, folks, we've talked about healthcare so much on this show. I can beat this horse and beat it and beat it and beat it, and it's not going to change. This is where the left crushes our country. If they get this passed and they take ownership of healthcare, we're screwed permanently and possibly irrevocably. And now something a little lighter. Okay, let's lighten it up. We'll keep it close to home still. Many of you watched the Super Bowl this past week, and whether you're happy or sad about the outcome doesn't really matter that much anymore. The game is over. There's always next year. But there is fallout. Fallout in the way that there are several members of the Philadelphia Eagles who are planning to skip the traditional White House visit that the Super Bowl champions make, and it's making the news. So the big question is, why is it making the news? Who cares whether someone from a professional sports team makes the visit to the White House after winning their respective league championship. Does it really matter to anybody out there? Does it matter to me? No. Does it matter to you? I hope not. It shouldn't. To some people, getting to visit the White House and meeting the president, regardless of who the president is a big deal. To some people, it's not. But what's really important, more important than even winning the game, is having the freedom to make that choice of whether you're going to go or not for yourself. So please, leave these men to exercise their freedom to choose whether they want to go or not go, and don't let it bother you. It's not going to change one thing in your life, no matter what they choose. We as Americans need to work more on living our own lives and not worrying so much about what anybody else is doing. And that's just a personal thought. Okay? You take it for what it's worth. Sad news closer to home. One deputy was killed and 3 other law enforcement officers were shot in Colorado Springs on Monday. Deputy Micah Flick with the El Paso County Sheriff's Office was shot dead while investigating a motor vehicle theft, officials confirmed. Monday was his 11th anniversary with the department, and he left behind a wife and 7-year-old twins. Police confirmed that the suspect, who has not been identified, died at the scene. I'm sure he's been identified by now. A Colorado Springs police officer who was shot was in surgery but was stable. 2 other sheriff deputies were shot, but their conditions were unclear at the posting of this article. So my notes are not updated from this late Monday night. A bystander was also shot, the police said. Flick, who was called an outstanding member of the department, is the 3rd sheriff's deputy shot and killed in the line of duty in the state of Colorado since December 31st. That, folks, is a travesty. Officer Zach Parrish with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office was responding to a domestic disturbance and died in the ambush-style attack on New Year's Eve. Deputy Heath Gum with the Adams County Sheriff's Office died on January 24th while responding to an assault in progress. Senator Michael Bennett called the incident a senseless act against law enforcement who put their lives on the line to protect our communities. And he's right. He absolutely is right. Oh, and I know you're thinking it in the back of your head, and you're just wondering when I'm going to get to it, aren't you? Because you know this is exactly the kind of thing I'm going to hit. We've got to talk about the Dow Jones. We got to talk about the stock market. Okay? The first thing that you need to know about what happened Monday with the stock market is that it wasn't caused by anything fundamental. There was no particular piece of news that drove the major average to capsize in a move that sent Dow Industrials off more than 1,500 points. It was a new in-trade day record briefly in the final hour of trading. Not the largest percentage, but the highest point number. And as a matter of fact, percentage-wise, this isn't even a top 20 event. Okay, let that sink in for a minute. It's not even a top 20 event in relation to percentage of the market. That's how much our market has grown in the last year. So instead, the market took on a mind of its own, where sentiment and likely some computer program trading, there was probably a little more to it than that. There was some sentiment. I think everybody was buying, and I think we just reached the peak. And when they showed up Monday morning, they were like, there's nothing really to buy. Let's sell. And it just tidal waved. there's all kinds of people panicking and the fear brewed over a number of issues, rising interest rates, bond yields, you name it. There's all kinds of different things you can point to, and it's just a culmination of, folks, there's no way that the market could have sustained growth at the pace that it was moving. There had to be a correction. Had to be. So panic setting in, and of course we saw today, we had a nice little bump back today. It was up 300 plus today. And you'll see it. It'll regain itself slowly. It will. But panic was setting in, kind of incredible, said Michael Yoshikami, CEO of Destination Wealth Management. The S&P was trading where it was sometime in December, so it's not like we're retracting an entire 12-month of returns here. Investors are just understandably nervous. It's probably program trading kicking in at this point, he said. Others blame the Fed for the market breakdown, or at least the mentality that led to the selling climate. The central bank, following its meeting last week, noted that inflation looked to be on the uptick. That put the market on notice, a point that was echoed when the government Friday said average hourly earnings rose 2.9% in January, the fastest move of the recovery. Investors' minds quickly turned to a more aggressive central bank and the prospect of a faster pace of interest rate hikes. Joe Lavarnia, chief economist for the Americas as Natixis, said he's not worried about this move. This is all a Fed move, he said. If you don't think there's inflation and you don't think the Fed's going to be as aggressive as the hawks would have you think, this equity sell-off should be bought. So look, basically what's going on here, we got all kinds of things going on. Here's what's going on. There had to be a correction. Inflation, we talked about it for years while Obama was in office. The quantitative easing that they were doing was artificially shielding inflation. Now, apparently, quantitative easing has ended now under Trump. And again, this is the setup. It was constructed knowing that Obama would be going away and that the program would fade away right after he left. So take it for what it's worth. We knew inflation was going to come back into the picture. If you didn't, you're just being naive about it. It sucks. I hate that he did this to our economy. Instead of just taking the lumps when we had to, we're going to take them now. And, right or wrong, Trump's going to get the blame for it because he's the man in office. Unless he can actually sit down and show you why he shouldn't and prove it, he's going to get the blame because he's going to take the credit too. So investors could be forgiven for having flashbacks about some of the market's most vicious drops. The Dow fell throughout Monday morning, but that dive that happened around 2:30 in the afternoon roughly resembled the violent 2010 flash crash. However, no trading desks contacted by CNBC reported trading issues in Monday's big sell-off. So there was that. It was just a sell-off. And sure enough, markets recovered somewhat, just like they did that on May 6th event nearly 8 years ago. But the damage could be substantial to the collective investor psyche. If you let it bother your head and you just decide to pull your money out of the market, that's a problem. And it's also bad for you because you're still making money. Even if you take a loss right now in the short term, in the long term, you're still making money. And like I said, you're going to see a bounce back. We already saw part of it today, 300 plus up. And the Dow has soared more than 40% since President Trump's election, a period that included an impressive nearly 20% rise in the S&P 500 for 2017 and the fastest start to a year in 2018. The market simply did not take into account that you just can't go up like this for that long. And people need to keep in mind that the market moves a lot very quickly. It doesn't mean fundamentals are changing that quickly. What you're seeing is the recalibration among investors that we actually are in a late cycle environment. And, it's just not that hard to wrap your head around. Larry Kudlow, he was blaming the bond market, again, but you can't just pin it all on the bond market. That's not how it's going to work. So, anyway, that's pretty much it for tonight, folks. I'm probably about a minute or two early, but again, let me go back to the start, to the opening of the show, and touch on that topic one more time. If you know somebody struggling with alcohol, drugs, contemplating suicide, these are people. They're not waste. Do what you can to help. Again, we can't save everybody, but we can try. And all it takes is a little bit of kindness. And if you don't have a little bit of kindness in you, then what the hell kind of person are you to start with? All right, folks, that's really it. I'm going to wrap it up now. It's been my pleasure. Jesse's POV is coming up next, followed by the Stafford Voice. Do yourself a favor and stay right here and stay tuned to KLRN Radio. It's the best programming you're going to find anywhere. And if you like the show, tell your friends. If your friends like the show, you need new ones, but they and you are welcome every week with me right here on KLRN Radio for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Peace and God bless.
I hate this place. Nothing works here. The medications don't work. I've been here for 7 years.